fitness. He's gonna pump me up.
Gosh. Run in place.
Ready?
Throw some jabs in there.
Yo!
When I heard the news of my brother's death, I couldn't be more shocked.
I was at home, I think it was a Saturday night.
I was hanging out with a friend.
Friday night is when I found out.
I was on my way back from vacation when I found out.
The phone rang at about 4 in the morning.
My roommate waking me up 5:30 in the morning on Friday, telling me the police were there.
I didn't believe it. I thought it was the worst joke ever.
I just didn't believe it. I said, that can't be him. It's a mistake.
I said, Dad, it's a rumor. That's crazy.
It made me speechless.
It was one of the worst days of my life.
I never imagined Matt would commit suicide.
He did not want to end his life. He loved life. He had a good life.
We all knew Matthew wasn't capable of this. A boy doesn't smile like that for 17 and a half years. And then 6 months later go and do this without any help.
In just these past few months, I have found that we are in the middle of an epidemic of the psychiatric drugging of our children. Across the world, there are 20 million children on some type of psychiatric drug. 20 million. And as shocking as it might seem, psychiatrists at a recent conference even admitted that they are diagnosing children at younger and younger ages.
From your personal experience, what's the earliest age that you could diagnose a child with a mental disorder?
It depends. Some disorders start in early childhood, some in adolescence, some in adulthood.
It's a very, very complicated question.
Earliest isn't really a criterion.
End of junior school, going towards high school.
13, 14. Probably 6 and over.
6 and 7.
The age is 6. 5 or 6. Age 5.
5 years.
3, 4, 5, 6 years of age.
Probably 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
4 or 5. When you look at a kid who's 4 years old and trying to diagnose him with ADD, how can you tell it's not just because they're 4 years old?
4 years, 3 years.
Very early.
2, 3, 4.
2 or 3 years.
The age of 2 or 3.
3. Toddler.
Before 18 months.
They can actually see signs as early as the age of 1.
It's a few months probably. Babies.
The newborn.
Newborns.
In the uterus.
Pre-birth, that's what we wish.
Psychological problems start even when you are in the mother's womb.
It's disgusting that anyone would even think of giving a mind-altering drug to a young child with a developing brain. But what about the children drugged before they are even born? Another way that we're being drugged is through pregnant women. If they were to go in and have any type of, problem with their mood, as if any pregnant woman doesn't, they're putting them on these drugs. And Kristen, you've had firsthand experience with this and a terrible tragedy as well.
Right. I had been on antidepressants for 8 years, and so I have had 2 pregnancies on antidepressants. And so when we wanted to get pregnant with Indy, I asked my new physician if that is something that he recommends, is that I get back onto Zoloft, because I was on Effexor. In fact, I was on 300 milligrams of the XR every day, and he recommended that I stay on it, that there was no testing to show that there was any problems, that it doesn't get to the baby, that I would be fine. And so I took that as, you know what you're talking about, and I decided to stay on it. And then went into labor 2 months early. They stopped the labor. The doctor came over and said, and was shocked that my OB hadn't said that Effexor was dangerous during pregnancy. But he had immediately called down to the NICU and said that we have an Effexor baby and to be ready. And they were there.
That must have terrified you.
It did terrify me because I didn't know what we were up against at this point, but it was too late. It was too late. It was happening. And so when she was born, she wasn't breathing, and she wasn't she wasn't responding to anything. And at that point, you know, when they finally did get her to come around, it was almost like that part of the damage that I had done was over, that it was okay. Oh my gosh, she's safe, she's okay, she's breathing. And no doctor told me that, you know, through the breast milk, could she be getting any kind of the medication. We were in and out of, you know, the hospital because she had severe problems with jaundice. She had severe problems with vomiting. She was lethargic, and she would eat maybe 5 to 10 minutes and then fall completely asleep, to the point where we would have to jottle her over and over and over again just to get her to be coherent enough to eat again or want to eat. She wasn't gaining weight. We came up, well, the pediatrician wanted to put her on medication, and I told him no because she was a baby. And in the whole time I was giving her medication through the breast milk, and okay with that. She didn't even have a voice. She couldn't tell me that anything was wrong. You know, I should have seen, and I should have put it together, but I didn't.
But that wasn't your role. That was the role of the
doctors, and there were plenty of them around to be able to tell you that this could affect your baby.
Well, and you think about it, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't, drink caffeine, you watch what, you take good vitamins. Why would you drug yourself? It goes right to the baby. And that just didn't...
It's called a medicine.
It's a medicine.
They call it a medicine, so it seems like a good thing. You're supposed to. It's going to do nothing but good for you. And that's not what it does. It's as bad as all those other things or worse.
Well, that's what I've said to my, to some people, is what's the difference between going to the guy on the corner selling heroin and going to my doctor? Because it's going to do the same thing.
I did the same thing. I breastfed for 4 months on Zoloft. And the whole time they told me it was safe, and the only problem was watch out for sedation. But they never said, because sedation could kill your baby. Your baby might not ever wake up.
No child should be lost that way, and especially with breast milk, mixing all these drugs in it is just a recipe for death. It really is.
If you think about it, you wouldn't go to the store and buy a bottle or a can of formula that says, with Zoloft, feed this to your baby.
You wouldn't.
Nope.
Yeah, so I think of, and what I think of is all those babies that have been, claimed SIDS. How many of those mothers have been on medications and just don't know any better? I know they're out there.
Of course they are. Of course they are. And there'll be more. There'll be a lot more, unless they are informed. It's hard to think of a story sadder than Christian's. And what's even more outrageous is that pregnant women are increasingly being targeted by screening campaigns that can get them onto psychiatric drugs. 1 in 6 pregnant women today is diagnosed with a depressive disorder, and most are put on antidepressants, which means over 500,000 babies every year, born and unborn, are exposed to chemical toxins. And now, psychiatric researchers are trying ultrasound to supposedly diagnose bipolar disorder in babies still in their mother's womb. The problem with drugging pregnant mothers with antidepressants like Paxil is it dramatically increases the risk of preterm delivery and doubles